podcast.
Are you telling me that you built a time machine? Out of a podcast?
I have come here to chew bubblegum and
podcast.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
All right, in 3, 2, 1.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Get to the Pod. Did you just like during the intro?
I was gonna be like waka waka.
Hey everyone, welcome to Get to the Podcast. That's Get to the Podcast with the number 2. My name is Diego D'Souza.
I'm Nick Gambino. And I'm Neil Carson.
And Luke, I am your father. I'm your uncle.
That's terrible. I am your father's cousin's brother's former roommate. What does that make us? Absolutely nothing, which is what you are about to become.
I'm glad that you brought up the Spaceballs reference.
Okay, let's talk Star Wars. Let's talk Star Wars because now that we're...
Hate is gonna hate.
Hey, we're a few weeks out from the release of Episode 8, The Last Jedi, Star Wars The Last Jedi. Let's talk about it now. Now that we have a little distance.
There's a problem. Wait, we have a problem.
What?
I have not seen it yet.
That is a fucking problem, but
Have
we're going
you
to
read
talk to you
anything
about it.
Have things
I've read
been
stuff
spoiled?
about it. No, we can talk about it. You know, I just honestly,
If you haven't seen it yet, then it's
expl-
obviously not important enough to you, so we're going to spoil the shit out of it.
No,
Maybe it's better that we don't spoil. Like
We won't spoil anything.
Here's the thing,
We're going to
I-
talk about
Talk
it.
about overall tone and
Yes, we're going to talk about things.
No, we can talk about it. I'm okay. So here's the thing. I haven't gone to watch it because I just there's been so many talks about it. People are just ripping it apart. People, you know, and it's just like, you know, I want that.
It's split. It's not just people ripping it apart. That's the funny thing.
No, it is
people
split.
either love it or hate it. It's very weird.
It is split, but
Strange.
there's a lot of hatred out there for just and it's coming from people who are like deep in the Star
Fuck them.
Wars
Make them go
movement.
fucking make a goddamn Star Wars
Exactly,
film.
and that's what I'm saying.
Fuck them.
That is like the bottom of the barrel defense.
That-
Don't be like,
that-
you make a better movie.
I really do want to see that. This
That's
guy,
not
you know
a
what this
good
guy
defense.
said? I saw this fucking comment. This guy was like, apparently they're just letting any moron make these films. That's all that's happening is morons are making this piece of shit film. I'm like, oh my God, kill yourself
Okay.
right now. Punch yourself in the face. Fuck
First
you.
of all,
Yeah, it's
the guy's not a moron, and the movie is definitely not a piece of
It's
shit.
not garbage.
at all. It
When
is
people
not
are saying
a bad
it's trash.
movie.
I'm like, please.
That's it.
And that's the thing, you know,
That's what I'm saying. Thank you. That's all I'm saying.
sometimes when I
That's
want
too
to
much.
enjoy a film, I want the hype to just go
Yes.
away off of it, so
get
I
that.
can clearly and clear-minded go watch it.
Yeah, like Blade Runner 2049. I told this to you when we went and finally saw it. Like, I felt like the hype in a weird way kind of ruined them. I was expecting so much more than what I got that I wish I'd gone in with like not having
Or
read
seen
the
it
review.
immediately.
Dude, the
when
early
it came
reviews
out.
before that
You
was
saw it
released
weeks after it came out.
were like, this is the greatest film of the last 50 years. Like,
Yeah.
these were the quotes from the critics.
They
I
say
was
the
like,
last decade, I think, is what it was.
or maybe the
yeah.
last 10 years. And I was like, are they really?
pretty
Are they
good, though.
serious?
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
feel that way?
I think it's easily in a top list. I don't think it's the best. In the
Maybe
last
like
I like
top
Dark Knight
1,000
so well.
or something.
Like Dark Knight, I think was incredible.
Even if
But-
only the last 10 years you include films, I would not. Maybe I'd put in like a top 250 or something.
Star Wars?
I don't know.
No.
Blade Runner
Blade
2049.
Runner.
I just like
He's
I'm
just
just
talking
saying,
about this
like,
idea
the
of hype.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the hype like fucks you all up in your mind.
It
because then
does.
You go
It
in
does.
with some
And-
expectation.
and
that doesn't-
sometimes
it
there's
doesn't live up to.
And here's the thing. Sometimes I respect the film so much. I want to go in clear-headed, and I want to just enjoy the
too
film.
late, man.
Because I can't. I do that. No, I can do that. Trust me.
Oh, you can do it?
Yeah, I can do it. I can go in clear-minded. Like once it drops out, I go in and I enjoy the film. It's just because there is people talking good stuff about.
You're
it.
right.
There's somebody said, I read an article the other day. Somebody was talking about how they felt that this is one of the best Star Wars since.
A lot of people are saying
since,
that since
yeah.
Return of the Jedi or
Empire.
This is what's crazy is like I've seen
Really?
so many headlines and
Somebody
so many
said
people.
that?
No, there's a lot of people.
there's
saying
a lot
that.
of people saying
It's
that.
a
very
lot of people
split.
do drugs too.
Yeah,
so.
it's really split. So it's like I feel like I'm gonna
There's
go
at
watch
least
the movie
9
and be
million
confused.
pedophiles in the world, so you know,
Yeah.
you can't deal with these percentages. A lot of people do a lot of things, but no, there are a lot of people praising this film, and then there's a lot of people shitting on this film. It's very weird. Like I've actually never seen this kind of a split before on a Star Wars movie specifically. Force Awakens, you had your detractors, but you had most people were like, you know,
It's a solid
in awe
film.
about it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Rogue One, same thing. Prequels. Generally, people shit on those movies, at least in retrospect. Like they look back and, dude, we have the wall fucking collapsing around us still. We have all these sound barrier things, and they're just like
Falling.
they're just falling.
It's your voice, man. It's like booming them down.
Yeah. My son works. James Earl Jones. Okay, so
Or Darth Vader,
yeah,
AKA.
that would make more sense for what we're talking about. You are part of the Rebel Alliance. Anyway, so it's strange. It's really fucking divided. And I went and saw it, and I saw the flaws, sure, but I actually really enjoyed the movie, especially the third act of the film. Right, the third act of the film I thought was great. There was a lot of great scenes in that movie.
It's interesting too, because a lot of times I see a film and like the setup is great, and then it's the final act that fails.
Yeah.
And then this is almost like, in a weird way, kind of a reverse way. It doesn't feel like they failed
In the early parts.
The thing I think people are upset about is that this movie, in a weird way, did not feel like a Star Wars film. It took place in the Star Wars universe, but it didn't feel like a Star Wars film. It felt like I was watching like Spaceballs.
No.
So honestly,
there was a
when
lot of jokes.
I
There were
was
a lot
like
of jokes.
a quarter way into that movie, and I was like, is this movie... The thought literally occurred to me. I was like, am I watching Spaceballs too?
Right.
Did they make Space... Like, that's how... Nothing
The search for more money. That's what
search for more money.
Spaceballs 2. The search for more money.
This entire film, nothing felt like a real threat, and nothing felt serious.
Right.
And nothing... even things didn't even feel sincere.
Right.
It felt like I was watching this like comedy, but like with half trying to be kind of serious, but not really, because we're not trying to scare the kids.
Yeah.
Like weird. It was weird, and I was like, I don't know how to feel about it. Like, it's Star Wars, but not.
Right.
Like when Han Solo. This is a spoiler if you haven't seen Empire Strikes Back. When Han
Force
Solo.
Awakens. Oh, you want to go back to Empire Strikes Back?
When fucking Han Solo.
1980, this movie came out.
Gets captured by Boba Fett, and he gets like frozen in carbonite, and you're like, the movie ends with this fucking guy gone,
and Luke's hand gone. Like
Luke get his goddamn hand chopped off by his pops,
and he finds out he's his dad.
Revelations. Lando Calrissian goes from being a bad guy to a good guy.
Yeah.
You know,
So
like
Billy
all
D.
these revelations, and you're like it felt heavy.
Yes.
Like this movie,
It is
like,
hard to use
nothing
using that
felt
as a
heavy.
benchmark, though. Empire Strikes Back
should
is the
be.
great. I know you're right. You are right about
Star
that.
Wars felt heavy. I mean, the original was like a little light. Empire Strikes Back is much darker, and
Than any
Return
of
of the Jedi is dark. It's a dark movie.
It is dark, but it's also it ends on such a high note, whereas Empire Strikes Back ends on a downer. Return of the Jedi ends on an high note, so it's different.
It does.
And I mean, I loved Return of the Jedi because of like you finally saw a badass Jedi, which you hadn't seen for 3 films.
Yeah.
You'd seen bits of it, but you
They
saw...
did introduce the Ewoks with a lot, which I remember
A lot of
there was
people
a
didn't
lot
like,
of
but I fucking love the Ewoks.
People were turned off,
I was a
man.
kid when I saw it, and I actually thought the Ewoks were great. Jar Jar Binks, not so much, but the Ewoks I thought were great.
Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah.
But even
don't like me.
episode 2 and episode 3, both very dark movies.
Oh, 3
Very
especially.
dark.
Revenge of the Sith may be the darkest of all the films.
Yeah, but like I don't know what like
Revenge of the Sith is the darkest.
I don't know
but,
where they're going.
Okay, so let's just talk about
I'm
8
so
for a second.
confused.
Let's talk about 8 for a second, right?
With 8,
So
yeah.
Last Jedi, I think the thing the movie failed the most. I want to talk about the negatives and then the positives. The thing it failed the most on was
Diego, don't listen.
No, I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm not gonna
what
spoil-
I'm doing right now is
We're not trying to
I'm going
spoil
through.
it.
I know you're not. And
I'm going to avoid spoiling.
I won't.
There's not much.
I won't dislike you if you do. I still like you, but I'm reading the comments and I'm trying to figure out like one of the biggest.
You won't figure out shit
One of the
from the
biggest
comments.
hatred people are having. They keep saying that Disney. There was too much of Disney film inside of Star Wars, and people did not like
It
it.
felt it. I will say I didn't read those comments before I saw the film, but after watching the film, I definitely felt like this film was geared to a much younger audience, and the intention was they were trying to reach.
There's some really dark things
An
in this
appeal.
film. So when you say that, I just feel like
Really?
yeah, there were
Like
dark
what?
shit in this film.
Well, without spoiling.
Let me think of things. Fucking Kylo. Anything with Kylo in it.
What the specific part? Because it was all nothing was more darker. In fact, I don't think anything in the second film was darker than what happened in the first. The first was far dark. When they introduced Kylo Ren at the beginning of the first of episode 7,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this guy's a threat. Like, this guy's a real danger to the rest of the characters that they're going to introduce in this film. Like, when he comes into that little town or the village and he's just like wiping everyone out. And that ship comes in, it's like, and it's like his sword even like crackles instead of like a nice, beautiful hum. His sword is like, I was like, everything about that was threatening.
Okay, Force Awakens was better than I see what you're saying. Force Awakens was better than The Last Jedi. I said that right from the get-go, right when I finished Last Jedi. I was like, I really enjoyed that movie. It's the truth. I enjoyed it. I was just like...
I enjoyed Force Awakens too.
Yeah, but even Last Jedi, I was like I totally enjoyed it, but I remember specifically saying I like Force Awakens more. And here's the real reason why. Force Awakens feels like it was directed and basically overseen by a very skilled technician who knew exactly how to make a goddamn movie. Like a Spielberg type. It flowed and paced.
Well, J.J. Abrams is already... with like
he's been
Super
working
8,
in TV for like 20 some odd years. Yeah, with all that.
Specifically, I feel like with Super 8.
Yes.
For me, Super 8 is like such a good film that like, and it's almost like J.J. Abrams was obsessed with Spielberg films growing up, and so he just wanted to make Spielberg.
He's the new
films.
Spielberg, yeah,
and in many
Super
ways,
8,
like
Mission
because
Impossible
he
3.
mimics him so much in his film, and
but he's very
almost
much his own. He's very much his own, though.
He has his own style.
No,
he
he
did the Star Trek films.
You know, he worked for
two.
a long time ago. He worked on Steven Spielberg's Super 8 films.
He made the Amblin, or not Amblin, but he recreated or re-edited his old films. But going back, J.J. Abrams with Mission Impossible 3, which was his first movie, actually, in 2006, I think it was.
I mean,
was
he
his
had
first
been working
movie.
on Lost.
He'd been working on
he
TV
created
for
Alias
years,
and Lost, which were both very...
And Felicity. Yeah, so he'd worked on TV, but his first feature film was only Mission Impossible 3, which was in 2006. And he did, Super 8. He did the first 2 Star Trek movies. So he knew what he was doing, and this guy was a veteran by the time he took on Star Wars, Force Awakens. Rian Johnson, which is a mistake they've been making with these Star Wars films, with this, which is something a lot harder to tackle than a Marvel film, right? Because you have
I don't know if it's a money thing or if I don't know why they keep doing it.
No, they're trying to do what was successful because Disney owns Marvel, they own Star Wars, right? With the Marvel films, they keep bringing on these new directors, guys that really haven't done much. Like they may have done one indie film. James Gunn, who did the Guardians of the Galaxy films, hadn't done much.
But in a weird way, like there's a formula to every Marvel film, and like the producers who produce the Marvel films, like literally know exactly how to make a
but the
movie.
director's still creating
Ant-Man
the film.
should not have been good. And that movie's a good movie.
It's a good movie.
It should not have been good.
Sure.
Like the premise is stupid.
Yeah, Peyton Reed, I think, did that.
But it was good. And I was like, how did they do this?
I know.
They're magicians. Like, I don't understand.
It is fucking crazy. But so Marvel's really, but now Star Wars, you're talking about
it's a whole different thing, man. It's a whole different beast.
They've just revived it, right? J.J. Abrams came in with a solid installment with Force Awakens. They followed that shit up with Rogue One, which is the first spin-off Star Wars movie. That fucking movie was amazing. It was that movie is on par with Empire Strikes Back.
Great movie.
Almost, or maybe it is. Great movie. And then they have Rian Johnson, who did like Looper and Brick. But
I love Brick. I haven't seen Looper, but everybody loves Looper.
I like Looper.
Looper's great. Looper's great. But again,
film.
these are different movies from Star Wars in terms of level and what you're dealing with. And he has the sole writing credit on Last Jedi. Rian Johnson does. The sole writing credit. So he wrote and directed this movie. And I mean, as a guy who basically did those two things on his own, like it's pretty solid. But there's this thing that's missing that I feel like maybe it's a veteran thing, a thing that maybe J.J. Abrams just knows like instinctively, or he's learned over many, many years, but it's this pacing thing. It's a very lopsided film. Last Jedi goes from like...
That was the thing that caught...
Like, it just slows down, it speeds up, it slows down, it speeds up, it speeds up, it slows down. And you're like... It's jagged in that way. The emotions change. Sometimes it's like heavy on the comedy, and then it's not. Whereas you look at the Star Wars movies that were successful, they jockeyed those things beautifully. And like the jokes didn't always land in Last Jedi, and they were done in times that he shouldn't have been joking. And Mark Hamill's Luke Skywalker wasn't necessarily played the way we wanted Luke Skywalker to be played. You know, it was kind of like very crotchety and jokey.
To be honest with you, like, but when I watched the original 3 films, like I always, like to me, my character of choice in a weird way it was either Darth Vader, who in a weird way was kind of a hero, even though he's a bad guy. He's played up far more negatively in the original.
The second one, he has more levels to him.
Yeah, like but even in like Return of the Jedi, like when he's watching Luke
get killed
by the Emperor, and he's just like, "This is my son."
He looks back and forth, and he's looking between
and he's
them.
Just like,
you see the conflict behind the mask.
Yeah, when you know after you see Return of the Jedi, you kind of can rewatch the other, like episode 4 and 5, and like have more of an affinity for Darth Vader. And so it was like Darth Vader and Han Solo.
Han Solo's my man.
Luke Skywalker was never a big character for me,
True.
even though he's like a main character.
He's a main character.
He's the main character in
I
like
think Return of the Jedi is
4
where,
and 5.
yeah, Return of the Jedi is really where I clicked with him when he was an actual Jedi, and I love his calm demeanor. It was very
That
much,
was actually
that's
a
what I wanted
turnoff
to
for me
see.
as a kid.
Oh, I
but
loved
now
it.
I appreciate it more. But as a kid, I didn't like that. I
was a
liked
badass
Han
in Return.
Solo's like wild card.
I know,
his
cowboy
like
shit. Yeah.
So let me ask you guys-
it's just like
I got a bad feeling about this.
Yeah,
and,
he like everything is like he doesn't give a fuck. He's just like winging it. He's winging
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
He's winging everything, and I love that about his character.
So let me ask you guys this:
Indiana Jones influence.
What do you
that, I don't
feel
know.
like through all these comments that people were saying about the film? What do you feel lacked, and why people are reacting this way?
So these are the things. One, the pacing was totally off, and whether you're a skilled moviegoer or a filmmaker or whatever else, you feel that.
You feel jarred.
It's just like the way if you have fucked up sound and nobody can put their finger out on what's going on. It's like the mix is messed up. Like there's something out. Like movies, our brains have been trained to absorb movies in a particular way. So when you change it up on somebody, even if they're not skilled enough to know what that thing is that's changed, they perceive it. Same thing like if you were to change the frames. It's 20, movies generally are 24 frames per second. If you were to change that to 60 or 48 or something like that, people would be like, what the fuck am I watching? Like they can't process it properly.
That's why Peter Jackson tried that, and
I mean that looked great in 3D, but in general, I couldn't do that.
I
with
feel
every
like
movie.
it's an editing thing.
Yes, so with Last
edited?
Jedi, it was writing and editing because you could tell that was on the screen, that was on the page, and then it was just translated into film. But again, that's always hard. Like you should correct that in editing. You should go, okay, good. This was on the page. Now we need to edit this properly, and it just kind of like was jagged. It didn't feel like it flowed. Force Awakens flows.
Can I tell him one spoiler?
Okay.
Or is that a mistake?
wait, I thought. See,
I don't want to do you.
well, here's the thing. You guys
There's this
always
thing
get
that-
on me
that
for
perfectly-
spoiling, and you give me a
Alright.
20 fucking years. Like the movie has to be out for
Wait, I
20
don't-
years, and you just recently watched this. And
I mean,
guys
you
gonna
should have
spoil-
seen Last Jedi before now. So
No, I should not.
Boo to
have.
you,
Okay,
man.
so you know how
There's a lot of people
Force
that haven't
Awakens
yet.
ends. I'm not going to spoil it. But
Okay,
you know how
yeah.
Force Awakens ends.
Correct.
Okay, so the way they handle that in the new film, I thought was fucking horrible, and that's like early on in this new film. Like I was instantly not in it. I was like, this is not cool with me. I'm not okay with how they just handled that.
Okay.
And the
I
way
know
they
what you're
set
talking
up
about.
Luke Skywalker's character and the way he reacts to
Oh, I
completing
see. I
that
know
scene,
exactly what
I know
you're
what you're
saying.
talking
it
about.
felt very like they took this moment that could have been a great epic, like amazing cinematic thing, and then they just
And they
threw
turned
it
it
in
into
the
a joke.
trash.
They turned
it was
into
a fucking joke, and
and
I was
it
like,
ended epically in the first one, in the
I
Force
was
Awakens.
like,
yeah.
I don't know. I'm
I
not
don't know
on
how to
board.
feel about that. Okay.
I'm not on
I know what
board.
you're
I
talking.
laughed.
Don't
I
say it. I know what
won't
you're
tell
talking
you,
about
yeah.
because I've read it in comments and articles, and then I've read like a.
This guy is
So, but the whole rest of
spoiling
the
the shit out
movie
of it
has
for
like these
himself.
moments like that, whereas like they I feel
I'm
like
not-
they're like, oh, this is going
It's
to be
mainly
so
on the
good.
island with Luke. That's mainly
And
where
then,
it is.
And then it like, but
So-
then there's weird moments you don't expect that are epic as shit, and you're like, wait, what the? Where?
Oh, that scene
But it
with-
didn't build. You know, epic comes when something's epic. It like builds. You see it coming, and you as an audience have that like sense of like validation. Where you're like, I feel good. Like I predicted that this epic shit was gonna happen, and it fucking happened.
Yeah.
But when something epic happens and you have no idea, it's like, oh, there's this scene where like something's happening and this person's gonna do this thing, and then all of a sudden this epic thing happens and you're like thrown off. You're like, whoa, what the fuck am I watching right now? This movie does it to you over and over and over again, and it's jarring.
Which is the
It's not
positives
fun.
in it. Yeah, it's not fun, but at the same time, it is the positives about it too. That's what's crazy.
It's cool.
Yeah.
I was like, that scene
So,
was cool as shit.
There are jokes
But-
that are placed in areas where you don't want a joke to exist, right?
But
It's
then there are
like-
jokes that are great that land well.
Like, okay, for instance, Empire Strikes Back. I love you. I know. It's kind of humorous, but at the same time, you can feel the weight of everything around it. Now, in this one, they kind of are just like, oh, let's get a chuckle here. And it feels off, right?
Yeah.
But, and I know exactly, that scene you're talking about where they kind of end it and then they make a joke of it. And I laughed when it happened, but then it kind of like I was connected with a lot of the other scenes in the film. I started going, you're not treating this with enough like fucking seriousness. And there's a
That's
lot
the
of
thing.
things that don't
It
pay
felt
off.
like-
There's a lot of setups that don't pay
It
off.
almost
in the
felt
film.
like the director wasn't a big fan of Star Wars. In a weird way. Not that I like J.J. Abrams is or something,
He's a
but
huge
like,
fan of Star Wars,
like it
JJ.
felt like the guy, like the director just like had less.
I just think it was a skill level. I think it's something that he's not used to. He doesn't know how to play with it properly. I don't think he created a film that was well balanced.
Yeah.
But I did really enjoy the film, and there are some epic, great scenes
That's
in
the
this
thing
film.
that's
That's
jarring
the
about it.
positives.
It's like I want to
There's
hate
things that-
it, but I can't hate it because technically it's a really well done
It
film.
really is.
It's a solid
That's what's
movie.
bananas.
But
That's
I want to
why-
hate the movie. At the
People are
same
like, it's not
time.
perfect, so it's trash. Like, that's the only 2 levels for some fucking people.
No,
I'm like,
I
you're
can have
crazy.
both, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the whole
I
thing.
will
There-
watch it
there's-
again, and I'm going to
Absolutely.
enjoy it. But I'm
Yeah.
like, I also there's things about it that I hate.
Yes.
That I just like. I'm like, why did you do that? Like that was
So let me ask you
not
this way. So
cool.
a lot of people didn't like Phantom Menace and those
Menace,
two.
yeah.
So compared to those that people didn't like,
It's better than the prequels, except Revenge of the Sith was... I actually think Revenge of the Sith is a really good
I
film.
feel
did
like
too.
you
I
should
did
watch the
also.
second one again.
I've seen them all so many times, dude.
I really like the
Clone
second
Wars?
one.
Attack of the Clones.
Attack of the Clones,
It's no, it's a fine film, but it's I don't know. I don't think it's
Revenge of the Sith is just so dark.
I know, and so is
Those
Empire Strikes Back.
So is
the
Nick.
young
What do you think he
It was
liked?
always the younglings. I was like, I'm out, man.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're
but
a piece
he's
of
Darth
shit.
Vader. He's supposed to be like that's how you can. They
You know-
committed, and I applaud the bravery. Of
But
that
you know what?
fucking
Like,
scene.
finally, you know what really sold me on Rogue One? Like, I watched that whole movie in the theaters, and I was like, okay, it's a good movie. I was like, oh man, it's that ending. Okay, whatever. And then the scene happens with Darth Vader, and I'm like, wow. Like the way I was like, they finally, because I've never viewed him as like that bad.
That was the most
And he
badass
was like a
scene he's ever
violent
had.
monster. Like he was a fucking monster. Like,
Where he's walking through the fucking
he's
thing
just
with
like
the red saber.
like
and
throwing dudes and
Yeah.
like chopping them up and like murdering
it may
dudes
be
left
the
and
coolest
right.
scene
And I was
in
like,
all of Star
wow.
Wars.
of Darth Vader.
No, that may be the coolest scene of all Star Wars
I don't think
films.
in Force Awakens or Last Jedi there was any scene
can't
that
judge
compares
because I
to
haven't
how
seen
cool
The
that
Last
scene
Jedi.
was.
You haven't seen the. Okay,
I can't judge.
Last Jedi has a couple scenes that
Are cool. Yeah.
There's this scene. I'm not gonna say what the scene is, but there's this. I went to go see the movie on a Friday morning at like
Yeah.
10 a.m. Okay, and the theater's packed on a Friday morning, and there was a scene
We should call everybody's work.
where everything goes silent.
should have been at work.
There's a scene where
Star
everything went
Wars.
silent. It's like the scene. I was like, Jesus, and the whole theater was like.
But see, that's-
like, hold on. They were like, it was silent, and there was just gasps, like, oh my god, jeez. Like it was like,
But it was
the
like-
whole theater was like, no, it was this. It was a scene that's like, holy shit, that looks fucking awesome. Like, it was a very cool scene. The significance of it, but also just the way in which it was executed. That was really well done. So it's weird to say a movie's trash when it has
All
scenes
right.
like that.
But that's what I was trying to mention that earlier without being
I'm not
too
saying what it is,
descriptive.
though. Yeah.
But the scene right before that does not set you up to experience what happens immediately after.
Right.
Like that's what I'm saying, but that's like an example of that entire film. Like
No, it kind of
there's a
does because they're
scene-
going off of the thing and
there's
they have
a
to do the
scene-
thing with the thing.
Yeah, but you didn't know
Oh,
that. You
thank
didn't
you.
know that it was gonna happen like that.
Yeah.
You didn't like they kind of set you up like, oh, okay, she's this thing's gonna happen,
Uh-huh.
and then but then something completely different happens. And the
They
entire
do that
film is that
constantly.
way.
And that's either a good thing or a bad thing.
It's
It depends.
bad,
Depends
because
how
it's
you
not-
react to life. Here's how it. This is the thing,
How
Diego.
you react to life?
Do you understand life?
All right,
Life.
we're bringing
Tommy.
in life
Okay,
lessons.
the
listen.
Star Wars meaning.
Here's
of
how
life.
it works. Here's
Nick's
how.
handing down the life lessons to all us sinners.
Listen,
Explain.
Lisa, do you understand life? Okay. Here's how it goes. It's like it would set up a certain thing and be going a certain way, and then it would twist in a completely different direction. And that could sometimes in some movies be great. And it's like, oh, that was
Yeah.
unpredictable. The movie's very unpredictable in that way. And a lot of people took that negatively. They were like, it felt jarring. Like it didn't feel like it was properly handled.
Yeah.
And I could see that, but at the same time, you think the movie's going to happen a certain way or go a certain direction, and it keeps pivoting. And to a degree, I kind of appreciated that. I was like, I couldn't predict it. I kept thinking, this is going to happen.
Yeah.
And then they would fucking do a sharp turn. But it would be that kind of sharp turn in a car where your fucking head, like, you get
It's like
whiplash.
whiplash.
It's like
Yeah.
whiplash. So it's like, that's bad. But at the same time, it's a movie that's not paint by numbers predictable, which is something we ask for from our films. So it's kind of this thing where it's like, is that good? Is that bad? I guess it just depends on
It's just
who you are.
basically
It's
they didn't do it
subjective.
right?
It's a subjective
It's
reaction
not
to
that
what
they didn't
did.
do it right. It's that they changed the formula and no one expected them to.
Yeah, and they
People are
constantly
like,
did it.
This is Star Wars. Here's a specific formula you follow.
They
and a
would spend
specific story
45
you
minutes
tell.
setting something up that ended up being either completely
Nothing. And you're like, oh,
but that's life. But that's life, like in a way. But you don't want to go to Star Wars for life.
Yeah, but sometimes, that's what I was gonna say. Sometimes life doesn't portray on screen. That's why you have dramatization.
I know. But I'm not justifying because when I was watching the movie,
that's why it's called based on the true story. It's not actually the true story because
I want to see exaggerations of life. That's why I know.
But what I'm trying to say is, I think this is part of what has people divided. Is I reacted to that. Not in a negative way. Hold on. Neal reacted to it negatively. I reacted to it positively. So it's this weird thing that subjectively, it depends on how whatever you get from those jarring moments is what you get from it. For me, I was like, I appreciated that. Neal went, that was weird. It made me feel weird. I didn't like it. So it's like this divide, and it's weird, but. Yeah. That's interesting because it means it's a film that got people talking. I'd rather a film not be...
You agree with me, though. There's a lot of moments. Like
they're jarring, but I actually appreciated them. That's what's weird.
There's like weird stuff that happens.
See, it sounds like Nick... It sounds like Nick...
I could see what people are saying. But what I'm saying is for me, I liked it. I know.
Yeah, and you're like, what? How did this?
I liked it,
How did you get from like here to there?
I know, but I liked it is what I'm trying to say. Is like, I went... I like it. I liked that they kept doing things that surprised me or shocked me or took a turn because I was like, I'd rather not have a predictable movie that's like.
This is my analogy. Imagine if you took like 1,000 people and had them all shoot a scene from this movie on their cell phones, and then this guy edited them all together. This is like 1,000 vines, like stitched together. That's how jarring this fucking movie is.
Exaggerated like a motherfucker. Now let me say one thing.
That's a little exaggeration.
Okay. So here's Nick's Jedi film, right? He'll start off. He's standing there with a saber. Just all you hear is, you would just see the red coming off his saber. Suddenly people come on screen, and he would just start killing them. Just killing them off.
And then it would end?
And then he'll short his saber, put it away, and walk away. And he'll say, directed, starred.
The fuck you talking about? I didn't want to set it off.
Nick.
But listen. There's a scene in the beginning of the movie. Okay, you know how if you can grab somebody's attention, hook them early on, they'll stay committed to the film for a while.
Yeah.
See, I was
okay.
Like
the movie kept doing that.
I know what you're saying, but like that didn't hook me. That made me go, well, am I watching Spaceballs?
No, it wasn't Spaceballs. It was Han Solo-ish. That was Han Solo-ish. That was not Spaceballs. It was not goofy, wacky. It was something that Han would have done.
But it went on and on.
Space Cowboy like. Yes, but okay. I don't want to spoil it too much, but basically there's an interaction between Poe, which is Oscar Isaac's character, and Donald Gleason, who's on the big Starship Destroyer. It's this crazy scene, and they're basically facing each other.
The leader of the First Order.
And, dude, it's so good. I wish you'd seen it, because it's this funny scene that plays out really... It was executed well. It really was. Like, between Donald's... delivery and the way he
brought a level of humanity to the characters. Where it made them seem like real people.
And it's very
like,
Han Solo-ish without being something Han Solo would have done. But that kind of vein of like humor, and it was great. It played really well. People were cracking up in the theater. But I also was like, I loved it. It hooked me. And the movie, if it ever started to lose me on negative points, it would come in with a great scene or something that would clinch me and would grab me back. So like they peppered that in enough that there were enough positives for me to stay committed and loyal to the movie to the end. Again, I think Force Awakens was a better executed film and even a better story, but Last Jedi had enough positives that I'm like, it's a solid addition to the Star Wars genre. Or saga, but I hope they, with 9, with J.J. Abrams coming back, I hope they deliver another film that uplifts it again and like does better than what this film did.
I feel like the big difference between Force Awakens and this is J.J. Abrams is like really talented at creating these mysteries that he doesn't really fully explain. He kind of he does it through imagery, not even necessarily dialogue.
Yeah, right.
He'll have a scene where like Finn will like pick up the lightsaber at the end of Force Awakens and he starts fighting Kylo and you're like, oh shit, he's holding it. Like this is some guy, you don't understand it, you know he was a stormtrooper or whatever, but you're like, is this guy going to become a Jedi? I don't know. It just implies things constantly, and it makes your like mind race with all the possibilities. In this film, I feel like that never once happened. In the entire film, where I saw something or something was said that indicated something that made me wonder.
Yeah.
And I didn't wonder about anything because
There's no like
everything
leading terminology.
No, they didn't like lead me on.
Yeah.
I wanted to be led on into some false direction, you know, and I felt like that didn't happen. And the movie ends and I'm kind of like, I don't know what's going to happen in episode 9. I have no idea what's going to happen in episode 9 because I have no idea what just happened in the movie I just watched. That's how I felt.
I get it.
It was like, I don't know
Do you guys
happened.
feel like part of this whole thing that they're doing? One of the things that article I read was that they talked about why it felt like such a Disney film was the fact that how they are changing over the cast into a new generation and letting go.
I don't like the new characters as much as I like the old characters. I'll tell you that much. That's true. Rey is fine. Finn is fine. Poe is fine. But I definitely like the old characters more. But the old characters are too old to play the characters as they all play. And of course, Carrie Fisher's now passed away. But
yeah, I don't think Kylo Ren as a character is that interesting. But I think Adam Driver as an actor portraying him really
I think his character was more interesting in Force Awakens.
Level.
I think his character was more interesting in Force Awakens than it was in this one. This one, they humanized him too much. They were too... He even smashes his mask. I'm a spoiler. He smashes his helmet and mask and doesn't wear it for the rest of it. Yeah, I guess. But like to the point where he doesn't wear it anymore. And I'm like... I thought he was great in the first one, like the mystery of him and how like vicious and sadistic he was. Like I just thought he was so good in the first film.
I want to say what's the bad guy's name? The bad
Snoke.
Snoke, yeah, whatever. Lord
Snoop?
Snope or
Snoke.
Idiot Snope or whatever his name is.
Whatever he is.
But
Order of Ren.
yeah, so in like
Snooki?
Force Awakens, when they show Kylo Ren talking to him, it's like this insane, ridiculous projection.
Figure, yeah.
But that was
like
always
hologram.
obvious because they used to do that with the Emperor in the old films. They used to do a big projection.
No, it wasn't. No, it was not.
They
that
wasn't a
big.
life size, but it was the head. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it would be like
It was
a
always
life-size head, but this was
It was
like
clear,
the
but
size
they
of
made
like
it
a
clear.
4-story building.
Everybody knew that was a projection, though. That was clear.
I
very
know,
early
but
on.
it was like the fact that
feeling of it?
that the visual effects artist or J.J. Abrams, whoever's decision it was to present this bad guy in that way,
Yes.
as though he was this like monumental, you know,
Bigger than life
character, because they never show him. You know, they always show this hologram, and it's like. And it's very like, you're like, oh, what am I seeing? You're like, he's talking to this creepy guy who's got this jacked up face. Like, is he an alien? Well, you know, clearly something's off with him. He's not human. But he's like giving him orders.
Yeah.
And there's enough mystery around it, and they don't reveal enough that you're like intrigued. And then in this movie, the way he's portrayed is so unthreatening that you're like, oh, okay, well, so this is all right.
No, I think he just didn't get enough screen time. I thought he was threatening, but they didn't do enough with him. And it really was like I thought he was more powerful than any of them.
You guys are
Maybe I'm just too
representing
old, I don't
exactly
know.
what's going on in the media about this film.
That's what I'm
Well,
saying.
they
Yeah.
liked it a lot more
straight
than
in the
I
middle.
did, and I didn't dislike it.
You also watched it at
Well, that's
11
what I'm
o'clock at
saying.
night, and you were hungry and tired. That
That
makes
is
a
not
difference.
true. I went to dinner right before. I
You
wasn't
said you were
hungry.
hungry, I thought.
I was not hungry. I said I wasn't hungry because
Okay.
you were.
But that makes
But I
you-
did see a late show.
He was
That
tired.
doesn't mean anything.
It does. 2.5 hours.
I will watch it again, and I will have the same.
Watch it in the
experience.
morning. I'm just saying. I watched it at 10 o'clock in the morning. I had a nice breakfast. I fucking just woke up like a couple hours earlier. I was good. 3 hours earlier. But like I was good.
No, it's better.
Makes a
I saw it at
difference.
night because then I could just go right to sleep and not be upset the whole day.
Whatever. Anyways, but I enjoyed the film. Okay, so anyways, that's why
I also enjoyed it.
And that's the thing.
I want to be able to be critical of it.
Yes.
and
And I am.
also let
I
people
am
know.
critical.
Go
Yeah.
see it.
yes, make your own
It is a
judgment.
fun film.
So let me switch it up a little.
It is divided. Just
Bring your
realize you
kids.
might be one of the guys
It's
that's on
Spaceballs too.
If you haven't,
It's Spaceballs too.
No, it's not. I thought Chewie didn't get enough to do in the movie. That actually I didn't like.
Didn't.
Anyways,
but the scenes he does have are pretty funny.
and there is a Mary Poppins scene with Leia that I still don't know how I feel about it. I feel like it's fine. I don't know.
Mary Poppins? Oh.
Mary Poppins scene. I don't want to spoil. There's a Mary Poppins scene. It's like very Mary Poppins-ish. She looks like Mary Poppins.
Okay.
You
I know
know
what you're talking about. Yeah.
Through space.
That
thing?
I don't want to break. There's so many scenes that I could bring up, but Diego hasn't seen it, so we won't bring it up. But when
Yeah.
you do see it, we should just do like a spoilers episode.
Spoilers
and just
episode,
like
yeah.
break this shit down because this movie is like it's
It's in the middle. It sounds like it's in the middle.
That's the thing. It's
Well, let me
so
ask-
weird. It's so weird. No other Star Wars movie's been like this. Either Star Wars movie's been like or it's been great. And this movie is
what's
divided.
the word that they use? It's like not volatile, but it's like it's just like it's such a jarring film.
Yeah.
Like in general,
Yeah.
it's a jarring film, but you're like It's not bad.
Yeah, it's a movie you can
But
enjoy.
you're like,
That's the thing
I
about
don't know
it.
what it is. Something is off, and it's hard to put my finger on.
Well,
that.
I think we've discussed some of the points, and I think those are enough
One
of
of the
those
biggest
points
things
are
I
in
think
there.
is pacing.
Well, you guys,
Pacing.
when you guys,
I think is the biggest
Jarring.
problem with it. That is the underlying problem that all of these other things.
I
you can
haven't met
forgive other
anyone that
things.
just loves it.
I've met people who loved it.
No,
and
I've read articles
online
of
that that's
people
the
who
funny
love
thing
it,
about it.
so,
There are people
yeah.
who love it.
Well, you guys
I need
explain.
to talk
Like I
to
said,
somebody
you
that
guys
thinks
are
it's like a
definitely
perfect film, because
explaining.
I don't understand.
I
what
don't
the
know
media
anybody
is
thinks,
saying.
but nobody. Force Awakens.
You
people
guys are
think it was a
definitely
perfect film.
okay. You guys are definitely explaining what the media is saying. So,
Yeah.
and we're just
It is.
repeating that.
Comments
Let me
and
ask
headlines.
Let me change it over a little bit. Let me ask you guys this. So, with Han Solo coming out this
Yeah.
year, what are you guys wanting
For that film?
them to take from these films that came out to bring to Han Solo, and what are you guys expecting from it?
Yeah. Okay. It's too late for
Han
them to
Solo
learn from
can
it.
be a wild card
Yes.
as far as I'm concerned.
It's Han
because
Solo to begin with. He is a wild card.
It's not based on it. I mean, it's Han Solo as like a young
It's
man,
origin,
so
yeah.
it can literally be whatever it wants to be.
Yes.
It can be Rogue One.
Yeah.
It can
be
literally
be- it's only
Rogue
this-
One, or it could be lighter. It could be like a comedy. It can be
Yeah.
whatever the hell it wants to be.
It
It's
could be
not-
a Guardians of the Galaxy type thing if
Yeah,
they wanted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Here's the funny thing about so they can't learn much from Last Jedi in terms of release or anything because that movie's coming out in 5 months. It's coming out in May, right? So there's not a lot they can. They
They've
have
already
time.
I'm sure they're already done
They're
filming.
already done. Okay, they finished principal.
Well,
okay,
yeah.
here's the one thing I'm concerned about with Solo. They finished principal photography in October.
Yeah.
And their release date is May. That never happens on big movies like this. They usually finish up production or shooting a year before because there's so many visual effects that need to get done, and they're
No, that's
releasing it-
exciting. I hope there's like less visual effects.
No, I don't think it's
wanna
going to make a
see, like,
difference. I think it's
CG.
going to be more. I don't. That they're not going to change the amount of originally intended visual effects as a result of that. Is what I'm trying to say.
I feel like Ron Howard's gonna.
I know.
Deliver.
I'm only concerned because
I
the
trust in Ron.
They got themselves under
Yeah, you
pressure.
do. I know
but
you do.
I think that probably means that Ron Howard is an efficient. He's a Ridley Scott type. Like he's efficient. He knows his way around a set in a
he's
movie.
been doing this shit for his whole life.
I know. Just don't give any more Star Wars movies to these guys who haven't proven themselves
that's-
over many.
We should talk about what Ridley Scott said.
Yeah, he's like
because he made an interesting point.
He brought
was
up that
like-
exact point. Stop giving these new directors the keys to Star Wars. Like, don't do it anymore.
Give some of
Marvel
the
does
veterans,
it,
yeah.
but Marvel can do it. That's different. It's a completely different animal. You're talking about Star Wars. It's
Yeah.
a very different animal from Marvel, and they have 40 years of fans to please of all different generations, and it's a very
It's a difficult task.
Marvel
to
is
please.
still using D-list characters from the comic books to create these movies. It's very different from Star Wars, which is loved characters over many.
Marvel
years.
can do it because Marvel it's just a new thing.
Yeah.
When it comes to Star Wars, yes, he's very right. He's correct because there's so many generations involved, and for you to feed all those generations, it's an art. It takes you learning and going through this art for years.
Yeah.
And like Ron Howard taking on Han Solo, that's a smart decision. I
Yes.
think that's a smart
I
decision.
thought that was brilliant
because-
when they came up with it. I was
Yeah.
like, yes.
Well,
Yeah.
what's
And
interesting
so-
is we were talking about this earlier on Rogue One. The director, they brought in another director
Yeah.
at the end of the filming of that movie to reshoot scenes because Disney wasn't happy with the production of that film. So like that film wasn't even completely done by the guy whose name is on it.
Yeah.
I forget what the
Gareth Edwards. He did Godzilla. That was the only big movie he had done before then, Godzilla, which wasn't a very visual effects heavy film to begin with. Gareth Edwards did. Yeah, so this is
and
happening.
who did they bring in to
Tony Gilroy, who wrote the movie and also directed like Bourne Legacy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you've had this happen now 3 times with these Star Wars films.
Yeah.
First, you had Gareth Edwards, who did Rogue One. He still has the director credit on it, but they brought in Tony Gilroy to basically fix it up and do a lot of reshoots and to basically take over the film. But because of DGA rules, like Directors Guild rules, you can't just like give Tony the credit on this. And Gareth did do a lot of work, but still the final product had to be ushered in by other people and brought across the finish line. Which is
They should at least give him an assistant director.
Gareth Edwards
credit or something.
had directed a couple films or a few films and only one big film, which was nowhere close to the scale of Star Wars, which was Godzilla.
Yeah.
And then you had Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, who directed the Lego movie, got brought on to Han Solo film.
Yeah.
And after a few weeks or a couple months of shooting, whatever, they were fired. It was like they were let go. Like it just was not working. There was a lot of problems. They had to send in like crisis fucking management onto the set, and then they hired Ron Howard within a couple days of firing those 2 guys to finish the film. They brought in a veteran director to clean up basically amateur mistakes. It's not that they're terrible directors; it's just that it's a very different animal when you're working with like a $20 million
I just don't
film.
understand why. Like, Disney has so much money to put behind these properties. Like, why are they going out of their way to hire these?
They're doing the thing that Marvel does because it's been successful with Marvel.
Yeah.
Because it's successful because they're trying to bring in a youthful, new blood, a different take. They're doing these indie directors, like the guy who's directing the next Jurassic World.
But then they expect the indie director to like take on a $400 million budget
because it's worked.
And like
it worked with
thousands
Jurassic World.
of employees.
It worked with
Jurassic World. It worked with Guardians. It worked with all the Marvel.
I feel like Jurassic World worked because Steven Spielberg and like all these like high-profile producers were attached to help him on that film. I don't think that Trevor,
where they missed out.
whatever his name
Colin
is,
Trevorrow, who did Jurassic World.
Like, I don't think that he took on
one
everything himself. You know what I mean? I get the sense that like, yeah, he directed, but he was getting assistance. Like a lot of these producers who come on as assistant directors, and they're like directing him. They're like, oh, well, you know, maybe you should do this, maybe you should do that. You don't think he was getting assistance?
He was getting
a new
assistance,
director?
but so were all of the guys in the Star Wars film. I guarantee it on a big thing like that. They were
But if
all
Ron
getting
Howard's
it.
directing that movie, Ron Howard's not having some producer telling him what to do. Ron Howard
To a
is
degree,
like,
it's still they're bankrolling it, so the decision is theirs. But here's the thing: like Colin Trevorrow had only done Safety Not Guaranteed, which was this little indie film with
that's what I'm saying. It
like,
doesn't
no
make
visual
sense.
effects.
It doesn't make sense.
And they brought him on for Jurassic World. Now the next one is being done by like J.A. Boyega, who did like The Orphanage and stuff like that, lower scale films. He's doing the next Jurassic World movie. So they keep doing this in other areas. It's just Star Wars. You can't really do it with. It's too much of. It's a hard. Sci-fi is harder to do anyways. To be honest, sci-fi is hard to get right. Star Wars has 40 years of fans. It's just a bigger beast, and you're just talking about something completely different than Jurassic World or the Marvel films. So they basically have learned, because even they had Colin Trevorrow, who did the Jurassic World film, they had him doing episode 9, and they had to let him go, and they brought J.J. Abrams back for that one. So they were they're getting rid of that plan for the Star Wars film with these newer directors, because they were trying to bring in a different look, a different feel, a different view.
It's funny because if you actually listen to the podcast like a year ago, I was arguing that they should do that. Get rid of these guys like the Michael Bays and bring in some of these young directors.
Yeah.
Bring in this new generation and let them create something new. But what I was arguing is that let them give them money to create some new project that they want to create, not take an existing property and then just put their own spin on it. Like, I don't give a shit about that. I mean, that would be interesting, but I'm more interested in original properties. Like, whatever, like Oblivion or some
have them do those, which they are doing. They're still doing, like Looper, for instance, which you haven't seen. Rian Johnson did that. That was a great sci-fi film.
Yeah.
But you got the Star Wars film. It's just not working with it. They've now run into that 3 different times with 3 different movies. With Episode 9, the Solo film, and Rogue One. They've had problems with
Disney
the newer
needs to get their
directors.
act together, man.
Yeah, they do. Or
Disney
Lucasfilm.
or Lucasfilm or whoever's behind it. I don't know.
Lucasfilm is what's running it, which is a branch of Disney at this point, or division, whatever they want to call it.
I would be super curious to see what George Lucas's original vision was for the final 3 films, because I feel like
they didn't use them
according
at
to
all.
these interviews Mark Hamill keeps giving, they were completely different from what
Luke was supposed to be more of an
Disney
Obi-Wan.
has decided to do.
Yeah, Luke was supposed to be more of an Obi-Wan, which you got the idea that's what he was going to be like, and
No.
it is part of the problem I have. Oh, one of the
I don't
want
wanna
to
spoil it, but yeah.
One of the other problems I have with Episode 8, by the way, is I do not like Episode 7 and 8. I don't like how easily the Force is being tapped into by Rey.
Oh, there's like, it's effortless.
In the original movies, it was like Luke had to work his way to really get
My midichlorian count is through the roof, so
You had
I'm
to
like,
find
good
another
to go.
planet and find. Yeah, it was.
No, but yeah, if you watch the original first 3 films, it took Luke a while and lots of training before he was even able to do
Even
the
if
most
you watch the
basic
original
shit.
trilogy, like Anakin is like constantly failing.
Yes.
And then he gets more and more
Rey's
powerful.
like, let me lift the craziest, biggest shit with like no fucking training, no guidance whatsoever, and I don't like that. Now,
She literally was in a trash can her whole life, crawls out of the trash can, now she's like lifting up buildings.
This
and
girl's
houses and
Oscar the
shit.
Grouch, okay? She's living in a trash can. She comes out wielding her fucking lightsaber, knowing how to use
A
it.
sand trash can.
Sand trash can. No, but I read actually this whole thing about how that was the concept behind the title for The Force Awakens, which was there was an imbalance in the Force, and the Force, which is a living thing, like it's actually
That was not well communicated at
it's
all.
an energy. No, it wasn't. But I read this whole thing and I was like, oh, that's really interesting. The Force Awakens was this idea that the Force, they said there's an awakening in the Force. Like there's this idea that it's basically,
Life.
it's come back up and it's basically being imbued through these people, which is how Rey is able to tap into it so easily. It's actually not this thing. Whereas when Luke was coming around, the Jedi had been gone for like 30 years and there wasn't a lot going on with the Force at that point, and he had to really work to connect with the Force, whereas Rey's so easily able to do it because of the awakened Force. So I was like, okay, I get that, but again, yeah, it wasn't very well communicated in the movies, and I don't like how easily she's coming around. I like how these women are coming around, taking our force.
Where's Kylo? How can use the force? So.
Is that the force?
All right, so for the last...
What do you mean is that the force?
It's the force. It is.
So-
Dark side
Force
of the
isn't good or bad. It's
dark
just
side.
the force.
It's the
It's
energy
just the
between all
Force.
living
It's
things.
yeah.
And then
So
the Last
for the ne-
Jedi.
In all things, actually. Huh? Last Jedi.
So for the next one,
Yes.
what are you guys hoping?
Do we know what the name is?
Episode
of the
9.
last
No,
one?
we don't know what the name is.
No, there's no name on it right now.
All we know is that
It's in pre-production.
pre-production. It's
yeah.
in pre-production. It probably won't get released until 2019.
It's going to be
probably.
like the
Oh, I
last
think it didn't get a summer.
Star Wars Episode 9. The
Is
last.
it scheduled for summer 2009?
It's just
19?
2019 right now.
No, I think they actually have a general date. I think they just announced that it was going to be summer instead of Christmas.
Yeah, because of Avatar 2.
Yeah, because of Avatar 2. The only person who could fucking scare Star Wars is James Cameron.
So last update, it says...
Avatar
Get
2,
him
man.
for a Star Wars movie.
So last update
Get
is...
James Cameron for a Star Wars movie.
I
Fucking Quentin
had that
Tarantino's
thought,
doing
but I
Star
was like,
Trek.
he never would.
Quentin Tarantino's doing Star Trek now. We have to
Yeah.
talk about that in a later episode.
If Cameron did a Star Wars movie, it'd be like the greatest Star Wars movie ever made.
Yeah.
It would outshine everything that has existed up until now.
And
I mean,
he'd
it's just a fact.
He
Like,
would
I
give
feel
me
like
free, he's like, give me free reign.
he would take
don't
like
fuck with
8
him.
years to make it.
He
He'd
would.
be like, I gotta really think about this, and that would turn into an amazing film. But like,
You'd go to it and you
It's
get
not
like
think
chopped,
about it. Here's
the
like,
audience
take a-
members get chopped in half by a fucking lightsaber.
James Cameron would be like,
experience.
it's gonna take a couple years because I'm gonna have to develop the
you'll
technology.
have to like build a spaceship and
go-
go into
That's what I'm
I
saying.
need to-
That's what I'm saying.
I need to
He's like,
learn
I'm
to
gonna
use
have to
the
develop
Force.
the technology.
I gotta go to
and
Mars
then test
first,
it out,
and then when I
to
come
find
back-
the real
I have to learn
physics
to use
of
the
it
actual Force
and
so we
pull
don't
it
need
out.
cameras.
Yeah.
I gotta go to a
Just-
Tibetan mountaintop for 7 years.
So actually, the actual date right now, just recently updated, was September 12th. Sorry.
2019?
Correct.
Okay, so that's going to be J.J. Abrams, which I'm excited about. J.J. Abrams is a fucking
He's got
solid
a
director.
lot coming. Like he's
He's
working. on
always
this.
working. He's a beast. But the thing is, the movies he's directing and the movies he has directed, there's not one miss. You might like some more than others, but J.J. Abrams' movies have been solid.
He's
Super
literally
A.
the apprentice of Steven Spielberg.
Yeah,
He is.
He is.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about him coming for 9. He is the one who brought 7, brought Star Wars back into the mainstream. He's the one who got, or just brought the movies up to date, like modernized the movie with respecting the old and ushering in the new. And yes, he didn't close a lot of loops or anything like that, but he brought it up and he did a solid installment on Star Wars. So I was like, I'm down.
He did it on both. He did it on Star Trek and Star Wars.
Exactly. He did
Yeah.
with Star Trek. He made it for more than just the Star Trek fans.
Yeah.
I wasn't a huge fan of
People who were
What?
Star Trek,
Star Trek?
fans, oh, they were. I thought they were incredible.
Well,
They were incredible.
We've had this conversation.
Yeah, we've talked about it.
Yeah, we
But
don't need to
anyways,
talk about it
So
again.
I'm excited to see what he
But
does.
you like Next Generation more than these films, right?
All
like
I
the TV
want-
show.
That's a whole different topic.
All
That's-
I want from
I don't want to
JJ
get into that.
All I want from J.J. Abrams is I want him to deliver a well-paced movie that doesn't feel choppy. I want him to respect
But
the characters,
see-
and I want him to scale back some of the hokiness.
Don't you see what happened? You got set up. They put out this Star Wars: The Last Jedi thing. Now, apparently, a percentage of the fans are let down. A percentage of the fans think it was great. But those people that were let down are now expecting like the bare minimum. Just give me something that's like a half just like an ounce better than that garbage I just watched, and I'll be
I don't
fucking
think they are.
happy.
I think they're willing
And
to be
it's like
critical
it's just
again.
selling everybody short, man. I want like an epic, amazing film that I'm gonna remember for the rest of my goddamn life. That's what I want, J.J. Abrams.
That's what I
Don't
want
give me
too.
the bare minimum.
That's what I want too, but you
Okay.
gotta first right the wrongs.
I thought you were
before
saying you
no,
wanted
no, no.
like a-
I think righting those wrongs would give us that. Rogue
But
One.
righting the wrongs is just doing what he did with Force Awakens. Do something better than Force Awakens.
Exactly. You think he's gonna come in trying to do something the same?
I
Of course,
respect
he's gonna
J.J.
try to do
Abrams.
better, and I hope
You know
he
what it
does.
is?
I hope he does.
He's pulling a Christopher Nolan. He's appeasing the masses, and he's not doing what he wants to do, which is what Stanley Kubrick would do. All of these Star Wars films are trying to appease the common denominator. The common denominator audience. They're not trying to like make a
An
vision.
art house film.
Well, yeah, but George Lucas didn't do that. George Lucas made a
Those
film
were
the way
he ushered in what's considered the blockbuster.
Oh.
Him and Spielberg are considered.
He
the
made a
blockbuster.
film that started with the subtitle a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away,
Oh my
which
God.
had like never existed before.
Well, you have to appease. What are you talking about? That's the job of an entertainment. What do you think?
All right,
Film
I
is
don't
not
want to get into a
entertainment. It's not
whole
our house.
philosophical,
All right, let's not-
philosophical
look,
thing,
so-
but if
Such a piece of shit.
J.J. Abrams should make I feel like if a person loves the universe, the Star Wars universe, and makes a film that he's happy with,
Yes.
that appeases the fanboy in him, then the audiences will like it.
I agree.
Instead of making
J.J.
something that like people who aren't really Star Wars fans, who are just there to see a fun movie because it's Christmas time, fuck those people.
See, that's the thing about JJ. That's the thing about JJ Abrams. If you watch any of his films, he knows how to create a balance between an old and a new. He did that with Star Trek. He knew how to appease the generations that were before it, that follows, that are like super like Star Trek fans. He knew how to appease them, and he also knew how to bring it into a new generation. And he did very well. He also did that with the not the newest, but the Star Wars. Force Awakens. He brought it back well. There were little things that people got complicated about it, and they're just saying
They got anal.
They just got very anal. But it was a good film. It was a really good film. So I trust that J.J. Abrams is going to be able to step into this film and create that balance that you guys said were lacking in the story structure and how jarring it was.
Right.
The tempo or whatever, or the
pacing.
The pacing, yeah, correct.
I will also say I have never been a fan of this Phantasma or whatever the shit that character's name is, the like silver stormtrooper that's supposed to be Boba Fett. This person is no Boba Fett. Yeah, what is it?
Plasma, is it?
Plasma?
Or
I thought it was like
fuck is her name? Yeah,
Phantasma or Plasma.
something. Yeah, that's Gwendolyn Christie from Game of Thrones.
I know. It was just like the character never. I was like, oh, it's just a stormtrooper. But then I started reading all these things online. They're like, oh, it's supposed to be Boba Fett because it's a bounty hunter stormtrooper. And I'm like, that was a bounty hunter?
No, she's a general. She's not a fucking bounty hunter.
That's what I'm saying, though.
Who's
There's
spouting
all
this
these
shit?
articles about this is supposed to be like a Boba Fett
She's a general.
character.
She's running the stormtroopers. That's all she is.
The character was like just a total unnecessary character.
Phasma.
Yeah.
Phasma.
All right, now we're picking characters.
Okay.
I'm just saying
So,
I hated the character.
I'm gonna go watch it.
I thought it was an unremarkable character.
I'm gonna go watch it soon.
Extremely
I
unremarkable.
promise you.
Anyways, yeah, go see Last Jedi so we can talk
we
about
will
it.
revisit this.
And I will be a
Yeah.
tiebreaker.
Yeah.
I'll be the tie, which Nick hates that.
Well, no, Nick.
You always
we're,
side with
we're,
Neil.
we're almost
No,
on the
don't.
same page.
No, don't.
Yeah, we are. We both enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Neither of us hated it.
Yeah.
I think I liked it a little more than you.
did,
But
you did.
in general, I think we're pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
We rarely are on the same page, but I think we are.
If you want to see Spaceballs 2, The Search for More Money, watch Star Wars Episode
That is
8,
the
The
best.
Last Jedi.
Mel Brooks came up with that joke in 1987
That's the
for this
best
movie.
time.
For this movie.
The
He
Search
knew
for
it was
More
gonna
Money.
happen.
30 years later, exactly. 87.
That's true. The coincidence? I think not.
I think not.
All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us as this Star Wars Like It or Not special. Thank you for joining us here at Get to the Podcast. That's Get to the Podcast with the number 2. My name is Diego D'Souza.
I'm Nick Gambino.
And I'm Neil Carson.
Luke, I am your cousin.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.